Hello, this is Chris Atala, aka Galleon Unlimited. This is part 2 of our Phantasy Star Generation 4 creators commentary and playthrough. And as promised, I wanted to show you. This is my homemade card of Phantasy Star 4. This is a Japanese version of the game, which are much easier to get a hold of, much cheaper. You can get them I got a bunch of these in box for like 15 bucks. And they come with like a really nice map of Motavi and all kinds of cool stuff. So it's actually like pretty easy to make your own cartridges once you know what you're doing and once you know how to do it. It's just like, and it's just like a little bit of soldering. The soldering's actually really easy too. So I got my original Genesis over here from 91. And yeah, so here we go. Let's look at the intro real quick. Almost nothing changed, but just so you guys can see it one time. And a lot of fan hackers with much more programming talent can add some fancy graphics to the title screen. I'm not able to do that. So this is the best I could do. I squeeze in Phantasy Star Generation 4 into the intro here. So, as you notice if you're a Phantasy Star fan, it's the L goal with an ending with an L system in Phantasy Star 1, and then the English versions later probably just chop off a letter and say space, just called it Algo with no L. Algo's a real star system, so I feel pretty sure that that's what it's meant to be. So, hence Algol. And again, there's a reason I did this in the first place. It was to change Parma, which is not only a famous city in Italy, but is Cleveland's largest suburb. I'm from Cleveland, so it's like ridiculous talking about like flying to Parma all the time if you're a Clevelander. So, changing that to Palma. I flipped these two lines. Old knowledge is being rediscovered. People are again turning to thoughts of an easier life. I thought it just was a little more literary to just like flip these two sentences. But the whole thing was really well written, I think, initially. So didn't feel the need to change something that was already really great. Okay, so I saved and already went through the tunnel here. So now we're in Tonoe, the town of Motavians. To the point here. I changed his line just a little bit to make him more preoccupied with Zio. He's pretty much obsessed with Zio as Pana, his sister, tells the story here. We'll go. Alright, so here's Grandfather Doran. This is one of the only parts of the game that I actually kind of changed what a character says. So let's go through his answers. Again, just like written kind of a little, try to make it a little more interesting. No. Just say no to see what he says. People tell the story. Because he's supposed to be, kind of a shady guy. Okay, so there's a thing in Japanese that is incredibly foreign to an English speaker, which is caring and wanting to obtain the measurements of women in the chest region, and like not only like a Ghouls and Ghosts I remember on Genesis. It's like and the ending, I think it has Prince measurements, and it's just like, what is this like? And then finding out later, like as a teenager or something, it's like that's really bizarre. I mean, we have two different cultures, very different, and how we deal with sexuality is very different as well. But, in addition to just that, like, kind of being, kind of like weird in the first place, I try to think about something that would more be relevant to an English speaker and an English-speaking player, and this is what, like, what localization is. You take something that you give a player, a similar experience, in their own culture, in their own words, as to what, the Japanese player experienced. So, I thought about it, and I thought, candid pictures of her in, like in a relaxing moment after, she's had, like, fierce battles maybe would be, kind of similar, and gave us some other options here, actually, too, with the script. So this is an adventure. This is a relocalization, basically, instead of a retranslation here. Yeah, so she calls him like an old fart in the original one, but I thought it was a more apropos as to what he's like offering, to kind of call him a pig. And not only that, if they're pictures, Rune knows fire magic, so I thought it was funny that she could try to call on Rune's call and assist here. And in the original, they're both like a more dismissive. They're more okay with his kind of creepy behavior. So instead of saying, "Oh, he doesn't mean any harm," like, think about it. You can try to justify anything by saying like, "Oh, I was only joking." Like, people do that all the time. Or you don't have a sense of humor. They try to turn it back on you that they've done something like really crappy, or said something that they shouldn't have. Things like that. So he says what he says here instead of like what does he say? He didn't mean any harm. That's what he says in the original. It's like, and I think even sillier than that, Alice is just like totally okay with it. She's like, well, that's why I put up with it. Like, no way, man. Like, Alice is the total badass. She would not be okay with it. In my estimation of the character. So this is what she says instead. It's like, well, we need his help, basically. I'm still not sure what he really needs Doran for at this part of the game. It's one of the only parts of the plot I don't think I'm ironclad 100% sure about. So I just use the Harry Potter, the when they go to the vault and like the what's it in vault, which, something like that. And it is dangerous. That's why we need titanium stuff. And that's why we gotta grind them all. In the Japanese, he is like the other Motavians. He's a little less trusting of the Paulmans, or humans. But the English version just makes him a little bit more right off the bat, one of the gang. And I thought it was fine, so we just went with the English version. Yeah, again, a lot of this is, writing is just like subtle, trying to make just the flow of the sentences better. Like him saying, that little blonde head instead of like that little head. Just like little things like that. That's pretty much mostly what the project kind of ended up being about. Oh, he's got green eyes there. He's got blue eyes in his picture. And this was something we just added when we got this new information about Zio just a couple months ago. About his magic. So Rune knows that he's a magician. In the original game, Alice says that fake magician when she first hears his name when they're talking to the principal. But nobody knows, as established, nobody knows what magic is. So that doesn't really make sense that she would identify him not only as a magician, but know that he was a fake magician, I think. So we changed that line, and Rune has already introduced the group to magic, which is this totally new concept that no one has seen or knows about for since 1,000 years, and further says Zio is dangerous because he also can use magic. How does Rune so much about him? We shall see. So again, we through a developer interview in a cosplay magazine that came out a couple years ago that's been fan translated. We got these new details about Zio and Rune, and we'll go into that when we get there. It feels weird trying to not spoil things for a game that came out in 1994 in the West, but this kind of new story thing is pretty cool, and most people don't know about it unless you're one of the 15 people that post on the PS Cave Discord every day like we do. And even then, it didn't seem to excite a lot of other people as much as it did me. But I think it really, I mean, the story is already like really great. There's pretty much like no holes. It flows really well. You know, you clearly understand, you know, the characters' motivations. No one is hanging around just because I have nothing better to do, you know. So I think explaining why Zio is on, like what the hell his problem is, and explaining why both of them are on Motavia are really important, actually. It's hard for me to look at the shops and everything and talk at the same time, so sorry. Yeah, on the sword, ups his defense in Phantasy Star games, which I think is really cool. It makes a lot of sense. I can't think of many other games that do that. Like every sword, even like the first sword, ups his defense. Oh man, you know what? I should have sold Rune's equipment. But, since I barely fought any battles, we're a little wimpy here. So we do have to grind here, unfortunately. But this and the Air Castle are probably the only two, pretty much the only two portions of the game that I do any kind of grinding at all. And even then, it's like 15 minutes or something like that. I mean, it's no big deal. That's part of one of the things I love about Phantasy Star 4. It's just so brisk, and it's so easy to replay. And I'm not one... I just don't like using emulators. I just feel a lot more connected to the game when I'm playing like a real cartridge and powering the system on, playing on a tube TV. So, pretty much when I was playtesting this and everything, I did what you're not supposed to do, and just I'd put the updated ROM on my EverDrive, and then pop that, go run to the basement, and then pop my game into the on the tube and everything. And for most of it was fine, but for the ending of the game, it was kind of excruciating because the ending has auto-scrolling text, and we'll get there a very long time from now. But it's basically like an algorithm that you set that multiplies. Yeah, so you could basically have it like, oh, the text stays on screen depending on how many characters are in the sentence. So you have no control over like trying to get the words to sync to the music is like the main thing, and that's like just really hard to do. So I have pretty much all the anyone who reaches out with feedback on the patch, and like whether it's misspellings, or they have a different preference on a word, or they think that the character says a line kind of out of character or whatever. I don't know why we went all fuzzy. Looking good. That's a little better, huh? No idea what I was saying. Until I watch this and I remember, and then I'll probably forget to say it. Episode 3, what I meant to say. while we're doing this, how about I go back? I'll point out anything interesting from earlier parts of the script. Oh, like, so here's just like small things, like, you get what the translator was trying to say, but I feel like it just doesn't quite come across in a way that makes sense if you stop and think about it. So, when Alice noticed the, these ambushes, man, oh my god. When Alice noticed the people all turned to stone, she says, and we got some money, let's get the heck out of here, do it again. She says, an ancient curse, you mean someone is able to cast such a spell in this day and age? You know, like, I just think that sentence could be a little bit more clear. So I never get poisoned, and I never, like, have any trouble playing this game. So last time, I was just testing the stream and everything, and I let the characters wind down from poison. Like, they both got damaged, and they were left with 1 hit point, and they were both poisoned. So I was like, let's say poison can kill you. I really have no idea. And it can, so... Anyway, so yeah, so Alice is like, I can't believe someone can, like, you know, cast a spell like in this day and age. So I just changed it to, you know, it seems like a curse from like a storybook, because she's, I think she's trying to you know, say that's something out of like, you know, like Phantasy, like Phantasy Star 1 2,000 years ago, Phantasy with like, you know, Medusa running around and stuff like that. So you know, that's pretty much the goal, just to make sure every single line in the game, as best we could, you know, really had purpose and really, you know, really hones in on what the, you know, the character is meaning, basically. Buy stuff. Didn't mention the first time. So we heal after every battle. Like it's Phantasy Star 2. Again, this is going to be a pretty brisk playthrough. We're not going to have a lot of road bumps like this. I probably would grind. I might grind a little bit to get to the air castle. That's about it. One thing I really appreciate about this game, just the and there's no like pointless subplots that, you know, there's nothing like, oh, you go to a town and you do something like completely unrelated to the main plot just to like fill time. There's nothing like that in PS4, and all the action, the action drives the next action that the characters take. The only real time in the game that I felt like I had to put in like an explanation for why a character is doing something related to the plot was one thing at the ending that we'll talk about at the ending, and what all do we need here? Our crown's gonna be downstairs. Titanium mail. I'm gonna buy a carbon suit. Short. Let's get on some carbon suit then. That helps a lot. So again, this game, it's already pretty easy, you know, in terms of like old school RPGs. But down there. But one way to make it like really easy. Oh, another thing, I guess maybe RPGs like don't do this that much, but in Phantasy Star, the characters at the front of the line are like that more likely to be attacked. So I was just watching, there's a Twitch plays of Phantasy Star 4 going on right now, actually, and they stopped in the PSK Discord, and you know, I kind of like, I was like, oh, that's cool, you guys are doing this, you know, thanks for reaching out to us, and popped in to say hi and see what they're doing and stuff, and the order of their characters was not optimal. Like, you know, most people just, you assume the main, you know, you just have the main character, you know, at the front of the line, but it's a lot easier if you you know, you actually do it by defense and hit points. So as the game goes on, do you have anti yet? As the game goes on, the magic users, let me grab this crown real quick. The magic user, you can give them 2 shields, like I gave, like Han just has 2 shields, because his attack sucks. Like, how badly does the group like need his like knife attacks? And you know, also when stuff's going down, he can cast spells. So why not keep him, you know, protected just with straight up defense and make him kind of a tank? And you can make the magic characters like serious tanks with the shields that are available to them at the end. So I always give Rune and Raja double, I can't remember, Psycho Shields or Silver Shields, I don't remember. Oh. Boring. Battle. Yeah, go the cutting room floor. Prototype Phantasy Star 4. That's what I'm going off of for you know, looking at the script, comparing the script to the earlier versions of the English, and also comparing them to the Japanese. No way, Jose. Grizz is sorry, Grizz. Left you guys hanging. That could have, an ambush could have been game over there. When is he gonna get anti? I just don't like. I barely ever use healing items in RPGs, and for some reason I just hoard them. I'd rather use all my magic first before resorting to items or something, you know, perishable. Right word. That's something you have to replace, and magic, you know, is infinite. Just go to the inn, and the whole group gets healed. Okay, so let's get stop it in. Your armor. But yeah, like to really, I've had a couple people tell me, well, first off, I always tell people, like, you know, we all have a tendency to just kind of be like, oh, is this any good, before, you know, we bother, you know, taking the time to like download and patch our game or whatever. So I've seen a couple, and you know, a couple people have asked and stuff like that, and I always just tell people, you know, just like, I usually tell people, like, play through, like, the first 15-20 minutes of the game. Usually, like, play to Krupp, Han's hometown, pretty much where we stopped in, round 1 here. Because that way you can get a feel for the script. Like, the first town, the college town, Piata, is just kind of like, you know, there's just like a lot of throwaway dialogue and, you know, some like general silliness. You know, when we meet Rune, and you know, when they see what happened to the people in Zema, and you know, Han like meets his fiance, that should give you a better sense of like, you know, do you like the style? You know, do you not care for it? You know, etc. Yeah, interesting. I'm just looking up stuff I can share here. Rudy calls Rune a turd in the prototype and curses at him when I had Rune say like, oh, dizzying intellect, you know, in this one. Rudy calls it a turd in the prototype. And in the final English, they took out turd and just left you, like, Dirk on it. Like, I just feel like that, you know, we could do something with that banter. We could make that a little stronger. Let's go to page 1 while I'm doing this. Eyes are so long. So I'll try to point out anything from part 1 that I didn't get to because I didn't have my laptop in front of me. So when Principal Croft is like, oh, you must be, you know, her assistant Rudy, you know, you must be Alice, you must be her assistant Rudy. In the original, she says, Rudy Chaz is a full-fledged partner of mine. You know, again, like, their relationship is clearly, they're not equals, you know. Clearly she's the mentor, and you know, he's still learning, regardless of what, you know, version of the script you're looking at. So, you know, just again, like, finding really subtle ways to separate them and to, you know, reconfirm to the player, you know, what their relationship is. And I've had many, you know, mentors in gaming and, you know, in real life and things like that. You know, they're all very different, and Alice, even just as default, reminds me of one of my more harsher ones, I guess. And the first version that I did of this, I think I might have mentioned this last time. The review, I think, is still up because they don't go away. He says Alice is a C word, and in my patch version, and it's harder to get across like loving sarcasm, you know, in text, as opposed to you know, hearing it in real life. Yeah, I don't think so. You know, I just have to go all the way down. It's a super long way around here. Yeah, so I softened some of her more you know, some of her harsher lines, and I found a couple places to stick in, like, you know, oh hey, you know, you're leveling up, you are doing a good job, you know, things like that, because, you know, even though I feel like I know the character really well, that doesn't mean that the player, you know, sees the character exactly the way I do. And, you know, you think about any kind of media or you know, books or movies or things like that. You know, when someone's an unlikable character, you just don't really feel that bad, you know, if something happens to them. Like, think like the little kid in Jurassic Park, you know, the boy is like little Timmy, you know. When I first saw that in the theater, like, everyone like wanted him to get killed on that electric fence because, you know, he just doesn't really bring anything positive to the story. He's just there as kind of a dead weight, and you know, just people don't like to see that in the story. So, yeah, I thought there was good opportunity to grow Alice a little bit. See, so, again, I think it's like, it's easy to take this for granted, but, and I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but, you know, there are a lot of RPGs where someone just kind of leaves their whole life behind for really, like, not that strong a reason. So, I just really love how they've, you know, set up the characters in this game, and you know, why they do what they do, basically. So let's go back to the story elements here. What does he? I want to see what I can't remember. I can't remember what this line is. Here we are. Oh, the line was he was just arbitrarily saying stuff, and you know, again, just like to help make that more about their relationship rather than just Rune being like an arbitrary idiot. You know, say what Rudy is thinking. You know, that he was like, maybe he was taunting me. You know, not, you know, and their relationship is, you know, is going to become a lot clearer. But obviously it didn't get started on a very good foot. And Rune's pretty brash, and we'll get to that too. Yeah, and instead of like Han's line in the original was, yeah, whatever, let's get going. Like, you know, it just seems a little out of character for, you know, a polite science dude, you know, like Han. So, you know, they are in a hurry here, you know, and he does want to get moving, but you know, to like be that rude, it doesn't seem like our boy here. It doesn't seem like Say is man. You know what? Normally, I never use this escapite, but let's just get out of here because grinding is boring. Yeah, so the Motavians, they just have a little more to... it just comes across a little bit more their fear of and distrust of humans, Palmans. Just comes across a little bit more in their dialogue. Nothing too interesting. Oh, we got anti-nav, all right. Let's pick up that circlet. It's gonna give him like 1 defense, I think. We're gonna be wearing our Sunday best. So that 1 defense point could be the difference between life or death. You never know. Alright, let's make sure we bought everything that we need to. I believe we do. Looking good. Let's double check our order. This should be still what we want. Yep. There's better shields we can give him. I can't really remember. I'm gonna tell you if there's better shields we can get for Han. Alright, so we should be able to do... We're not gonna get to the next main part of the story here. Just hustling the best we can. See if there's anything interesting to share in part 1 that we might have missed. There's a lot of dialogue to go through. Yeah. I mean, these are just small things, like, you know. Again, I started this just to change, you know, some proper nouns around, and then, you know, kind of like being bored. You know, started really looking at the dialogue more, and then it became, you know, the project that it became. You know, more and more lines, I just felt there was a little more improvement. So, like, I'm looking at the principal's line here, which is, you know, when she asks him some questions about, you know, this is weird. Why are there monsters here? You know, in the school. And then, you know, originally says, how would I know? But I just added like a quotation mark to match his character portrait a little bit better. And he says, like, stop asking stupid questions. Like, you know, I would never say that to someone I just met in a business meeting. So, as agitated as he is, it's like, okay, you know, let's massage that a little bit. You know, things like that. Okay, so we got our Elsalin. And by the way, if any, like, you know, most of the proper nouns in Phantasy Star are, you know, made up fantasy names. So I know some people have like really strong feelings about, you know, this pronounced this way because, you know, this is how it's pronounced in like the, you know, the katakana, things like that. So I did try, even for like all the monster names and everything. You know, I looked at all the monster names in Kana, and there's a great website that is linked on my project page, as you can see right here, listing out all the names for all the proper nouns in PS4, and with the Japanese original kana. And if you know anything about Japanese, like kana is like it's a character is a syllable, just like English basically. So you can, there's only like 20, I don't know, some 20 odd characters or something in kana, so it's relatively easy to at least learn how to phonetically speak katakana. And they use a lot of, it's their alphabet for foreign words, so they use a lot of English. So you could go to a restaurant and read the menu and not read anything else, but you could say like hamburger, oh hamburger, cheeseburger, oh cheeseburger, okay. So that was really helpful to try to make sure that you know, we were getting the best translation, you know, that I could deliver for monster names and such. Oh, that's okay. Let's bring this part up. Forget about this little exchange. Oh, here it is. It's just really short. Sorry. Oh, you know what? This is not... Oh, this part's not on the cutting room floor, actually. So, I just re-emphasize that Han is really excited because he thinks he's going to do something important, and, you know, he's just an errand boy. And the professor's just going to keep doing, you know, what he was doing in the first place. Poor old Han. That's a line that I just added. Oh, so, like, speaking of Alice's personality, I think this is where she says this is a good time for a break. Yeah, so, you know, just having her deliver a little bit more praise, you know, so you feel like, you know, as a player that you're doing better, and, you know, he can feel, you know, a little bit better about his performance and how he's doing. Yeah, I know he looks really happy in that, his pixely little portrait there, but he obviously was not happy that, he is not able to go on the dig, with his mentor. Yeah, just, this whole exchange is not on the cutting room floor for some reason. But yeah, I'm just always re-emphasizing why the characters are doing what they're doing, you know, to have him say, you know, just, again, my parents are dead, you know, I gotta protect my sister, and I don't want this to happen to anyone else, and that's important enough for me to, like, go, you know, commit suicide, basically, just if he goes off on his own. So again, some more faint praise, and, you know, it's a really cute portrait of her right there. She's obviously not usually that much of a softie. Yeah, this is phrased a little strangely in the original. I don't remember what she said. solidifying that, you know, they're a team, that nothing is going to separate them, you know, as a team. Yeah, so I did lengthen that exchange for the two characters a little bit because, you know, we aren't going to have that much more time with the characters, the party as is. Oh, and in the original Chaz is just, like, confused. She's, you know, she's basically just like, okay, we're going to blow this thing up. And, you know, he's like, now? I don't understand what that was trying to get across, so. And then we just had a conversation about, you know, that they feel like they're a great team, and, you know, Rudy right now, he's not going to back down from a challenge like this or be confused about what to do about a monster, you know, like blocking their way. He's probably gonna take it down. Oh no, fun fact, I believe this monster is from the PS2 text adventure. I think it's Hughes. Hughes' text adventure is a lot like Han's story, I believe. Her nickname just makes me laugh so much that I'm gonna throw something in about that. Alice is member. Yeah, tear him to pieces, Alice is a lot. That's a lot more literary, and that makes more sense, but there's a lot to fit in the small text box. Yeah. I thought I really liked how that was written originally in the game, so did not have to change that at all. And one right turn, I believe, and then it's all lefts again. Right, I'm gonna bring up a map here real quick. Try to speed us along to the next story thing before our time runs out for the day.